to 1stGenTalks. As you can see, we have a very special guest with us. If you want to introduce yourself very quick, this is us, part 2 to be on our podcast.
What's up, everybody? My name's Amina Boyed. I graduated in June 2019, and I'll be returning to DU this fall as a master's student. And so this summer and into the fall, and probably into the academic year, I'll be working with access and transitions in some capacity. We're still figuring it out, but yeah, I'm excited. So I was like, let me hop on this podcast, because the last time we did a podcast, I left feeling so refreshed and like happy. So I was like, let me hop on another podcast and like, just chat it up,
No, that's what Fredo says too. I literally mean, I try telling anyone, like, just come on and just like literally rant, like let it out. Like, and again, this is a student-run podcast. It has nothing associated with DU. We're not like, I'm not getting paid by DU. I'm not like, being sponsored.
You should be.
Right? I'm not being sponsored or anything, but like, again, we keep it 100% real on here. We're not gonna be faking anything. But yeah, I think I love that you say that though. And I think everyone should know, like, all the first years that are coming in, to know that you're a resource and you're definitely a guide to know, like, the campus and everything that's going on. And yeah, sorry, I'm like drinking like a smoothie over here. But today's topic, we're also gonna have 2 other people probably join us here later on. So if we see them pop up, we'll have them introduce themselves too. But today is role models and inspirations. So I think the first question is, do you have like a list or a person or even anything that inspires you or is like a role model? Let me go ahead and mute myself. I'm like,
I don't know if I have like a list. I feel like I have like bursts of inspiration here and there. But I definitely think when it comes to like what inspires me, it usually comes down to like people. And I feel like people in action. So like somebody that does something, somebody that kind of like rises to the cause. But sorry, I wasn't prepared for this. I should have thought about this before. I didn't know what the topic was going to be. I was like, let me.
I like put you on the spot. I'm like, yeah, come up with it. Like one of those essay prompts where it's like like
key testing.
And so I'll go. Like I can go first if you want. I think for me, sorry if anyone hears like family in the background, like all the kids just woke up, so you're gonna probably hear like a lot of screaming, maybe some dogs barking. But anyways, I think one person I look up to, like regarding like why I chose my major, is someone called Fred Rogers, or everyone knows him as Mr. Rogers. I didn't know who he was until like I saw like a documentary movie about him, and I was just like, wow, like this was like some healthy TV like shows that he was doing, like. And for those who don't know, like he ran a show, I forgot which network, but he ran like a kids show, but like it wasn't like anything like, Sesame Street or anything. It was like, I love that he focused on like real life topics, like talking about loss and grief and like just addressing concerns that a lot of parents have a hard time even talking to their children about. Like I know one episode that was like about like how you deal with death, but he did it in the perspective of like when a pet dies, or like a goldfish in this case. And there was like in this interviews, everyone was just talking about how that was such a big deal because like no one really like get to do that grieving process. Like I know specifically like in my family, we had someone who passed away when I was very young. Like I was in 4th grade and I didn't know how to handle it. Like I had no idea. Like I just saw people crying. I was like, wait, am I supposed to cry? Is that okay? And then when I did cry, my family shut it down because they were like, oh, she's crying too much. Like, hey, stop crying. And it was like, oh, okay, so you're not supposed to. But like I think what he showed in his shows and his video is that it's okay to have those feelings. And I think that was a big part of his like show, like showing kids how to express their emotions in healthy ways and like being able to cope with it. And I really appreciate that because it's like, it's true in like TV shows today, you see like, of course, a lot of like SpongeBob shows or like cartoons and stuff like that, but like you see like how they promote, like they're not showing that kind of side of like how you handle your emotions. If anything, they showed like how these TV shows are like showing people hit each other, doing pranks on each other, just foolishness, and that's fine. But they were just saying like, again, like when kids are growing up, what are we trying to teach them and stuff like that. And I really appreciate like Fred Rogers himself and like his undeniable like kindness. Like I cannot like And a lot of people even say like they can't find that much bad about him, and like they're so worried. They're like, oh my god, I hope nothing comes out bad about him. But like, I even read a book on him, like just learning kindness and how to just be unconditional love, and like that's just so great to me, like having that person who just sees it as like someone who's like just always kind. And that was his role models too. He talks about he was inspired by people. He thought the heroes of our world were those who were always trying to help others, and I just like I love that.
That makes me think too of have you seen the Michelle Obama documentary on Netflix, Becoming?
No, not yet.
Okay, 10 out of 10 would recommend. So
Where's my control?
we love Michelle Obama in this house. Michelle Obama. And I feel like since she's published her book, because she published her book called Becoming, and then went on this massive like 30 plus city tour in the States. And so I actually got to attend like one of her events last year with the other bunch of VIP and like 1Gen students. So like literally there was a section of all of us like DU kids, and like, you know, we didn't listen to like the tickets telling us where to sit. Like we just sat wherever within our section. And so I got to see her speak, and that was really, really like powerful and inspiring. And then I watched the documentary, and I think like the time, like who I was when I saw her speak, and then now kind of like watching it in this like stage of my life, I feel like I kind of took it in differently, but kind of the same message of like, you know, when they go low, we go high. And so I feel like with her, I really understood too, like how we get caught up in names and titles, and you know, like we're inspired by people who hold power, obviously, and like she was first lady, like I mean she always gonna be first lady, but you know, like understanding that beyond those titles and beyond those like positions that, you know, we grant to people or that they grant themselves, understanding like there's a person as a foundation, like she's a woman first and foremost, and then she's a Black woman, you know, like understanding like how all those things play into her actions and into her choices. I felt like that was all very powerful. Like I have a lot of respect for her. I have a lot of respect for the way she conducted herself before, during, and after her husband's presidency. So that was definitely like an inspiring, like Netflix documentaries are sometimes hit or miss, but she, like, her documentary was done really, really well, and like you get some really nice insight about her, which I think too is like when I think of something that like inspires me, there's always like that element of vulnerability, you know. So like, you know, are we talking about things that like involve our like most sacred emotions, you know, like our grief and our despair and our sorrow, as much as we value like our happiness and our excitement and our hope, like both those things exist. And I feel like I feel most inspired when both those things are kind of present, you know? So yeah.
I think it's true, like the vulnerability, like it's not easy to show that all the time. And I think you even said this, like on social media, everyone presents all the good stuff that happens in their life. You will never, like, not all the time, no one is gonna be right away like, oh my god, I didn't get that job, let me tweet about it, like I didn't get it, because that's not like, you know, in today's society it's like that's not accepted. I think again it's like those titles, those labels, that's not labeled as success if you don't get it and stuff like that. And I think that's really good. I mean, if Netflix done it well, I always get nervous about that too. I'm like, wait, was this person? I'm glad though she was involved in this project with Netflix. And is that correct? That's really good. That's now. I mean, if anyone wants to watch it now, we're hitting up the recommendations. That makes me. It reminds me of another movie that I've been watching lately with my mom. It was on Tina Turner's story and how her relationship with Ike Turner and everything like that, and just everything she went through. Um, it's just so inspiring to see someone who went through so much, especially with, you know, on the sensitive topic of domestic violence, and how she was she overcame that. And like I love that movie. Like I used to watch it when I was younger, but I never understood it. You know, being little, like I was just like, oh, what is it? But like I think being older again, it's like sharing your story and talking about it. Like that must not be easy. And then again, it's like when you make those movies, you're kind of like reliving it in a way. So like I just applaud her. I think again, like it's not easy, especially when she was trying to come up in this, like, you know, music industry, and then also being like a Black woman, like, and going through everything she was going through with the domestic violence and stuff. Like I applaud her, because the strength it took her to leave him and like to even just acknowledge what went, like what happened in her story and stuff like that. Like, it's just like, to me, I'm like, wow, like you are a strong woman. Like, you know, you always wonder like how people do it, and like, and they show you, they really show you. And I think, like you said, it's like, it's not easy. It's really not easy to be vulnerable, and it's really not easy to show that side. Sorry, my mom's over here talking. I think like something that inspires me, or like has been a model to me, is like, I just, Tupac has very two different sides to him. Like, I've researched him for multiple like like music classes, and like, and it's just like you'll see very two different sides to him. But there was this one interview that I really liked what he said, and it's so true to today. It's like, I think he talks about like, why does someone need a house with 40 rooms in it? Like, why? Like, why does someone need that much money? Why does anyone need that much money? And like, I think, like he said, like, have 40 rooms, but yet here's like all these homeless people. Like, it's like, how is that ethical? And he talked about it. And these are the people who are getting humanitarian awards and stuff like that. And it really opened my eyes. I saw it because like my cousin told me to watch like this interview clip. He's a big fan of his, but like I've always had this dilemma with him as an artist, because I'm like, you know, he has one side of story, but then you hear all these other things. But like, it's very two different sides. It's so crazy. I talked to a professor about this too, like who's like in the music department and stuff, and they're like, it is hard because you got those two different sides. But like, I think it's very important to what he said about, again, like, that inspires me, because it makes me like, you know, it makes me even realize like, I don't know, a lot of people have a hard time sometimes, you know, even admitting this. It's like, money is, you know, not everything. It really isn't. Don't get me wrong, you know, it's nice to have some in the pockets. It's nice, you know, to buy yourself some things and not to have to worry. Don't get me wrong. But again, it's like we see all these like millionaires, like the Kardashians, who are in their nice houses, in their nice cars. And I think me and Fredo talked about this last week with social media, but like, it's like, okay, no shame to them, you know, like they have that, and like we don't want to like, you know, put any negative energy out there. But again, it's like, why have five of the same cars, or like, for like what do you, you know, like, when you could use that money, that $100,000 you used to buy that car, could go, you know, and feed so many charities and like all that stuff. So I really live by that, because it reminds me, again, like, it's money isn't going to be everything. And I think it's such a big thing too. If anyone comes in with a major, you know, of course, anyone who isn't going to like the engineer and thing like that, they like to be like, oh, well, that doesn't make money. Like, someone who's studying history, that's not going to make money. But I think you should just realize like, money shouldn't determine what you major in. A lot of times I see a lot of people. I have a friend who was like majoring in biology and chemistry, and she said like she did that only because she wanted to become like a doctor for her family, and like she doesn't want to disappoint them, and like she just did, but she didn't love it. She hated it, and actually she switched her major. So she is a sociology and psychology major now, and she loves those classes. Yes, like she is thriving in them. Like, I remember when she was talking to me, she felt like dumb. She was like, no, like I feel like I don't even know. I was just like, I think you just need to try out different majors and see which one's your cup of tea, because maybe the reason why you're not doing it good in those classes, because that's not meant for you. Like, maybe it's not meant for you. And she realized like she took her first set of classes last quarter, and then this quarter she's doing so good. She's doing A's now. Like, she was telling me like she went from C's and now she has A's, and she's like, Brianna, like, you have no idea how good that feels. Like, and then she said it's not even just about the grade, but like when I leave these classes, I feel like I know what I'm talking about now, or I know what I'm learning. It doesn't feel like a waste anymore. And like, I just advise everyone, like, when you choose your major, just think about what's going to make you happy. And I know it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I know it's hard to, you know, tell your parents, especially parents that like give up everything and like, you know, are probably helping you pay for school, or even just, you know, having that hard time just to even, you know, I say this with my family, like, it was just even like, you know, hard to even apply and stuff, because like coming from a first generation, or coming from, you know, a family like my parents, well, both my parents are immigrants, and like just even that, like that American dream of like, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna be a doctor, and like being like, no, that's that's not the dream anymore. And it hurts. It hurted my dad a lot when I told him I didn't want to be a doctor, I didn't want to be a vet, none of those. And he fought me on it. He was like, why are you gonna waste, you know, money and time on these majors that don't get you anywhere? And I was just like, you don't know that. And it makes me happy with what I'm learning. And my mom's very more supportive of it. She was more of, you know, I don't want you waking up for the rest of your life not happy. You know, I want you to wake up and be happy to do what you do. And that, I live by that now. I'm like, I wake up when I go to my classes, don't get me wrong, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to that class. But at the same time, I'm more happy to go to my psychology class than I am to go to like my science requirement class. You know, so I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, I remember literally like that's how my story went. I was engineering and physics and I graduated psychology and sociology. And so like that's what happened. Like I love science. I love learning. And that's what I learned. Like I had to realize like that was the foundation of everything that I wanted to do and be is like I wanted to be a world learner. Like I wanted to be someone involved in learning in some capacity, you know. And I feel like with science it's very straightforward. Like we're all ignorant when it comes to a lot of sciencey things, right? And a lot of engineering things. And so I remember I was, you know, like in STEM for like a year and a quarter at DU. And I enjoyed it. I thought I was great until things got hard. But it got hard to a point where like I also wasn't being supported. I was also like one of like 2-3 girls in all my labs, and I was like one of 2 Muslims in all the classes, and I was just like, I just feel so out of place. Like you can tell when you walk into a space if you are meant for that space. And so that's a whole other conversation, equity in STEM, okay? But realizing like, you know, I wasn't learning. At some point, I just stopped learning and I was just drowning in material and I was drowning in like my own kind of disappointment and like just kind of like not meeting my own expectations. And so I was like, the reason I've learned now what it is, but like I wasn't learning, and that's what was my biggest red flag of like, yes, it's hard, and yes, I can put all my effort towards it, but if I'm not learning something about this material and I'm also not learning about myself, like what am I doing? And so I switched to journalism for like a hot quarter, and then I switched to psychology and sociology, mostly so I could graduate on time. Sometimes you got to make these decisions that are a little bit money motivated, because I didn't have, you know, the capital to stay another quarter or stay another year. But realizing like I feel like inspiration and like the people I look up to and like what drives my choices too is like when your values align kind of with your actions. And I feel like that's what grounds people. So like when you're talking about Tupac and like how he has like this duality to him, I feel like all of us have that duality. Like all of us have this very complex, you know, like intertwined, you know, traits about us. And you can't just kind of like separate everything and be like, this is my good side, this is my bad side. Like everything is connected. And so I feel like people who understand their values and understand how how they're motivated by them, I feel like end up being 1, the most happy, and 2, the most successful, but also 3, the most impactful. You know what I'm saying? Because like if you know one of your values is community, and you know choose whatever major and you do whatever in terms of career, but you're always drawn back to giving back to your community, that's going to make you happy, that's going to make you successful, versus being like, I'm gonna go chase the money. Well, you're gonna always be chasing the money, all right? And like, listen, isn't Bezos now gonna be like a trillionaire or something like that? So like, what's he gonna do with all that money, bro? You know, some of us didn't even get stimulus checks, so like, I mean, need somebody to we need to talk about this, right? Just looking for ways to like, one, you have to be self-aware enough to be like, okay, these are my values. And when you know that in yourself and you can also see them in other people, I feel like that's when you become the most alive in a way and the most confident. You know, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm moving forward and doing my best with it. So that's kind of what I think of, you know?
No, yeah, and I think maybe this could be like kind of our next question. You know, what we look for in role models, or who, like, why do we choose certain things that inspire us and stuff like that? Like, I don't know, like, I think, like you said, it's like, again, your values and then your actions and like what you're doing. And again, we are complex people. I think everyone's complex. Like, you'll give advice, but then we don't take it for ourselves. Like, I feel like, you know, everyone has that situation. Oh, let me clean up my camera here. But no, like, I just like, oh, can you hear me? Sorry, my internet is lagging. But for me, like, for a long time, like, of course it was always like me saying like, oh, I'm inspired, but like, my mom, and like it's true, I'm very inspired by my mom because she has such a kind heart, and like I understand it more that I'm older now. Like now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, this is why I look up to her. Like she has the kindest heart. Don't get me wrong, like she's still, I still be scared of her, you know, like I'm like, ooh, she gonna she gonna put me in check. But she is one of the kindest women like I've been able to encounter. Don't get me wrong, everyone's like, there's a lot of women out there and stuff, but like I don't know, like now growing up, like I understand, like I just don't get it. Like it's funny because there's so many people who have hurt my mom, but she never turns them away when they need help. And I just think now seeing that, I'm like, wow, I understand it now. Like when I was little, I was like, why is she doing that? Like why is she helping them? Or like, they were talking bad about her and stuff like that. But like she tries to show me, like when she tells me like you need to be kind to people, you never know what they're going through. Again, it's like, and she's showing me that even though she doesn't say like, oh, they did this to me but I'm gonna help them, she never holds it against anyone. And I love that. Like I love how she doesn't even bring it up, she doesn't even notice it until I talk to her about it. Like I sometimes will just sit there, I'm just like, mom, like I'm like, you just like, you don't like, you help, like, and you don't like say anything, like you just like, you just do it. And she's like, yeah, well, it's the past, like I'm not gonna bring it up, like it is what it is. And just how she helps everyone, like it's crazy. Like TMI, like, but my house has never been just us in the house, like it's always been family members coming to live with us as well. And that, like, that's just how I've been used to it. So it's like, it was weird for me even this year just to even live on campus alone, like that was weird to me. But like, no, like we've always had the house shared with just family members, but like it's always been family members that have like technically like hurt my mom or said bad about her. But it's funny because it turns around now, she becomes best friends with those people who just didn't like treat her the best. And like I don't know, that inspires me because again, I think like you said, when someone aligns their like, oh, there's my aunt, someone aligns like what they're saying with their actual actions. And I'm like, I love to see that because again, someone could say like, yeah, community this, but then we're not doing it. But like at the same time, like I don't know, like it's just that I find so inspirational. But like in general, I think just even outside of that, like I get so inspired by like little things like I see like in people. Like I could just be inspired of like if I'm in like, public and I see someone like helping someone else pick up their papers and stuff like that. Like to me, I'm like those little acts of kindness or those little things that you don't like actually pay attention to, like that inspires me. And like I think a big one is Alfredo. Like he's not here, but I'm gonna give him a quick shout out. I think Alfredo was definitely an inspiration for me. I think now, like more than ever when I first started college. Like a quick side note, when I first started college, I didn't even know Alfredo was like like I knew he was the director of 1GenU, but like I was so scared to talk to him. I thought like I couldn't say anything, or like when we'll have our 1-on-ones, I'll be so fake because I'll be like, yeah, everything's great, everything's fine, like, oh, literally, like, oh, no, nothing. But then I had something happen and like I couldn't hold it in, and I just straight up told him everything. And like seeing that, just like how he was just real with me, and like I was like, wow, like he's not like just faking it or anything like that. Like he's actually real, like he will talk to you about your problems. And like I just thought like, oh, he keeps it professional, don't get me wrong, but he brings in those human characteristics. And like I'm just so inspired by like what he does. He's always there for other people. But like what he really inspired me was a lot with self-care, and realizing that I need to take care of myself sometimes, because I see it in him where he's constantly, helping others, or he's constantly always doing something. But I've noticed that sometimes he'll be like, I'm just going to take this moment for me and like, do this. And I love that because I'm like, I need to see that in someone. I need to see someone like show that side, because, we see everyone who's like running around doing all these things, and like, we're like, yes, that's my, because again, like those are your role models, but you don't get to see the side of them where they need to relax, they need that moment of like their own self-care and stuff. Like I think going back to my mom, like I see her doing all this, but I don't focus on how sometimes she'll take naps in the day, and like that's it, that's fine. Like if I call her and it's like go straight, like not straight to voicemail, but like it goes to voicemail, I'm like, okay, she's taking care of herself right now. Like she's just probably chilling, she loves to watch movies, and that's just her form of self-care. And I think it's just so important because you don't see those sides. But I think I saw something, like, I don't know, like if you heard of it, but like it was like something like it's better to know your role models after they're gone instead of knowing them while they're still alive, because then you see, it was something complex like that, because they were saying like once you meet your role model, you realize that they're not this godly person. Like you put all this like energy into making them like your god, like your person, like this number one person, and then you get disappointed when you realize that sometimes they have some of the traits that you're trying to get rid
Oh, let me unmute myself. I think there's like a fine line there too of like not idolizing people, not making them your god, not worshiping them beyond the point where they have no faults. I think that's so important, and that's something like you have to deconstruct. And so because through that deconstruction, like realizing someone's fault, realizing your own faults, I think that's where you can connect on like a human level and being like, humans are imperfect, we make mistakes, we have shortcomings. And so it's really important not to blow people out of proportion. And I feel like, to some degree, I think I did that with Linda. I was like, because Linda's so like, the woman's perfect, okay? And then I had to literally remind myself, like, okay, like humans by default are not perfect, right? But Linda, because she's been a part of my journey since 2013, and she's still a part of my life, like a big part of my life. Like she writes my references for jobs and has like been there for me through all the ups and downs, and my siblings, they've all gone through VIP. So that's 4 boyettes that have done Summerlink. Like that's a family affair. And so Linda, like Linda always being like the kind, supporting woman she is, in my head, I was like, I can never go to Linda about my problems. She can never know I'm imperfect. No, She did know I was imperfect because I'd be in her office crying like once a quarter, about finances or something. But realizing that if you put someone too high on a pedestal, like you will never be able to reach them. And so you have to like remind yourself, like we're all on the same playing field when it comes to being human, when it comes to our humanity. And so I feel like that also helps too, when I think of like how I like to connect with people or people who I think are worthy of connection. I feel like a big trait I look at is like forgiveness, so like recognizing that like we're not perfect, we are going to hurt each other, like even the best of friends, even the best in relationships, even like the best of colleagues. There is never not going to be a time where like I'm gonna look at Brie and be like, you're never gonna hurt me. Maybe one day you're gonna say something that pisses me off, who knows, but like the quality of our friendship and the quality of you as a person and the quality of me as a person really boils down to, are we able to forgive and are we able to grow? And I feel like people don't include that when they're talking about like, I'm inspired and I'm this, and like, I look at, this community and I feel so good. Like you also have to recognize like there is that other side where like you can get hurt or you can fall through the cracks, or like not everything is rainbows and sunshine 24/7. And so recognizing that like the people we look up to also have faults, that's such a big thing, because if you don't think they have faults, you will never be able to connect with them, like real talk. And then 2, realizing that like in those relationships, in those like moments of inspiration, like finding the things that you're like, what, this isn't quote unquote positive, but this is still powerful. And I know for me, that's forgiveness, recognizing like this person can hurt me. This could be my best friend. This could be my partner, and they could still hurt me. But do we have the capacity in our relationship to forgive? I feel like that, like, y'all need to think about that.
add it up. I think that's okay. That's what I was trying to get to, like that point of like we put people on such a high pedestal, and then again that disappointment comes with when you realize that they're not 100% perfect. That's where that disappointment and frustration comes from. I think I've been disappointed with people again because then you realize like, oh, okay, well, they're not like perfect. What? Like, what do you mean you get stressed out? Like, you're not supposed to, like, and like that disappointment. Like, I think I'm gonna bring up my mom again, but like being little at the time, I would just be like, kind of mad because I'd be like, she's such this perfect woman, but yet again, why is she getting mad at me for this? Like, why is she being mad? Like, but then realizing that we're all humans and we're gonna display those traits, And I think again, when you idolize this one person, I feel like a lot of people get disappointed when they meet their idols because then they're like, but they didn't treat me like this and stuff like that. But again, it's like you were expecting them to be this, this big like this like perfect person, you know, like, wow, like they're gonna be 100% just super great and amazing. But sometimes you're gonna catch them on a bad day, like on a day where like they got 100 things going on, and then you're trying to over here talk to them, and they're probably gonna give you like the rush, like, yeah, okay, bye. And then you're gonna be like, they're so rude. Why would they do, like, you know, I don't even look up to them anymore. Like, wow, like, and I've had that case with one of my mentors actually, like, shout out to college track, but I had a mentor who, like, I looked up to him all the time, and like I'll be like, you are like one of the greatest influences in my life, just because he showed me how I love volunteering. Before, like, I didn't even know what it was like to go volunteer and stuff like that, and he would take me to like centers and stuff like that with me and other college track students. But then on one day, like, I came in for like my tutoring session, and I was trying to talk to him, but like he was just like in a rush. That example, like, he was like running all over the place, and I was like, hey Justin, like, I'm gonna say like a name, but I'd be like, hey Justin, like, how are you? And he'd be like, good. And then like he turned away and like left, and I was just like, I was hurt. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt, because I was like, what? Like, what did I? Because then I was like, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Like, but then realizing like, no, it's not that I did something wrong. It's just, again, he's human and he's stressed out. Like, he was stressed out, and like, it's funny because the next day I came in and I was like kind of sad and like hurt. Like, I didn't even say hi right away. Like, I sat down in the little office, and he was just like, hey Brianna, how are you? And I was like, oh hey. Like, I was like, wait, what? Like, how are you fine? Like, what? And I even told him, I was just like, were you mad at me yesterday? Like, he's like, no. And like, for, it's so funny because he was like, he didn't even remember it like that. Like, he was just like, I was just in a rush. Like, I like, it wasn't anything towards you or anything. Like, me realizing like, okay, it's not me. And like, it's just, again, like, you put people on such a high pedestal that you won't get that relationship if you never, you know, realize that they are human. Because again, I could have just been like, you know what, he's the worst person ever, and never talked to him again, or like giving him the attitude, or giving him like the evil eye, like, of like, don't talk to me, like, you know. But I think Linda is another great example, because I used to be like terrified to talk to her, because again, was a friend, I was like, oh my god, like, she's in charge of all of us, like, she probably don't want to hear my, like, my stories, or like me, or anything like that. And like, this year I actually got really, really close with Linda, and it's been great. And realizing too that, like you said, she is human. Like, she, like, you know, she's not like, not to hold her to this high pedestal of like, you know, like she's perfect and everything, but she also has those human characteristics where she gets sad too, or where she has stuff going on too. And realizing like, you know, it's funny because I when I was in the office, the bungalow, for those who don't know yet, but I would always see someone coming in and being like, where's Linda, and she'll be out of office because of other things, but like, they'll be like, oh, like, they will have that disappointment of like, wait, she's always supposed to be here, why is she here, she's supposed to be my help. But like, sometimes she'll be gone and she'll leave early because she has to go see her kids and stuff like that. So I understand that. But like, it's so funny because so many times, and sometimes it'll be the same people who come in and she'll be like, where's Linda? Where's Linda? And I'll be like, she's out of the office. She'll be back tomorrow, or like, send her a text or something. And I'll be like, oh, like that disappointment. I should be like, relax. Like, everything's gonna be fine. Like, she's still here, but she just needs a timeout. Like, sometimes she goes home and like she needs to rest. And I even tell her, I'm like, and they go home, don't even feel bad, because she's like, I don't know if I should leave. I'm like, go spend time with your family, go relax. And it's just so important to recognize that, like, you know, our mentors sometimes, remember, they used to be in the same place as us. And I try to like have my mentees understand that, like, especially with the freshmen that come in this year, having them understand that I've been in your shoes too. I remember coming in as a first year, and like, you know, it took me a while to get to where I am, and I'm still working on myself. Like, I'm not perfect, not whatsoever. But you know, again, realizing that with these role models, inspirations, you're gonna be disappointed when you hold them to that high pedestal. But then realizing that, you know, everyone's human. And I think a big thing too with like forgiveness, I think that's a test of love, like you were saying. Like, you know, I get into fights with like me and my best friend, we've been in so many big fights, but at the end of the day, we've come together and we've forgiven each other for a lot of stuff. And I think that's what tests our love. Like, I tell her like all the time, like, that's like my sister, literally, even though we weren't born from the same mom or anything, she is literally like my sister to me, because we've come through so much together that I even think, like, again, not everyone has the same ability to forgive, and that's not the same ability to love. Of course, I have friends who love me, but like, I know her love is so strong, because there's some things where it's like, the things we got into fights about, I don't know if that would even be the same friendship with other people. Like, that could have been the make or break, you know, kind of stuff with other friendships.
I get you. I feel like a big thing when it comes to like inspiration and role models, like it just kind of occurred to me while you were talking, is like people who know when to put their ego aside. You know, like that's really inspiring, especially in such an egocentric society where like we're really invested in our image and in our perception and, you know, like the role social media has and all of that and things like that. And so I don't know, I feel like the ability to sacrifice for others is one thing, and then also the ability to not like say no, I'm not going to sacrifice. It just, you know, like there's that duality. And so I feel like inspiration is really complex. Like, you know, at the surface level, it's very easy to say like, oh, I'm inspired by A, B, C, and D, you know, but there's also things that are like a little bit more deep. And so I don't know, it's for me, like when I think of like the DU community, when I think of who inspires me in the DU community, it's a lot of the people who are like, it's not about me, it's about us and uplifting us, you know, and like doing what we can to support one another and empower one another, right? And so that takes ego out of the situation where it's like, well, I need to get to the top as fast as I can, because I think college can be a super like competitive environment, especially at DU, where you have people who already are like 3 notches above you because of family and money, you know. And it's like, I'm competitive, like I'm coming for you, you know. So just realizing that, you know, like the role ego plays in inspiration, like you want to be inspired, but you also want to remember that like it's not about one person and it's not about your view of that person, it's about what we're doing together, you know, as one kind of. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just, you know, like I've learned a lot about ego in college, and then like especially this year off that I've had, of like how ego plays in our relationships, how it plays in our perceptions more than anything. And so when I think of like inspiration, when I think of role models, like take my ego out of it, take their ego out of it, or am I still inspired by you? And so when I think of like access and transitions, the answer is yes. All right, it is. We love Linda, we love Anthea, we love Alfredo. So that doesn't change, but just, you know, you have to think both ways, you know. And I think like if we were all stripped of our titles, if we were all stripped of our accolades and accomplishments, would you still be someone I admire? Hopefully, yes. And if not, you know, like you gotta confront that truth. So
I think that's true. Like, again, like everyone, it's funny because you could look up to someone just because of their title. Like, you could just be like, oh my, well, they're the president of this club, like that's why. But let's say they're not, they don't have that title anymore. Are you still gonna be talking to them? Are you still interested in like who they are, or were you just interested in their title? And you know, and I think that's what happens a lot with first years too, especially because you're coming to a campus that's like, again, very competitive, and you're just trying, you know, to like, I get it, everyone's trying to fit in and everyone's trying to be like, oh, well, where do I belong and stuff. And then you see, you know, some of these people who are like, they already have it all. Like you hear about like, again, when I meet my like mentees, I don't like try to share like, again, like what I have accomplished or anything like that. If they ask, I'll tell them, like I'll be like, yeah, I do this and this. But when they meet me, they meet like the real me. Like I'll be like, hi everyone, I'll just be very bubbly and like tell them like, you know, like I love the beach, like just little stuff like that. I don't go in right away, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm part of this and this and this, like. And then I feel like that is even itself is very intimidating. They're like, whoa, like, okay, like she's this person. I don't want them just liking me because of that, or because they're like, oh, well, that's, you know, that's the girl who's in this, or like she's this, like, you know. And I don't like that, because like I don't want to be known as like that one person. I think even like you can even relate to that. Like, again, I don't want you associating me with just that title, you know, like, well, she's just this person, because I'm a person of like, you know, I'm more than that. I'm just more than that role, you know. I'm more than just being this secretary of this club or being this, you know. And it's true, because again, the ego plays a big role. I'm like, we're bringing the psychology into it. But like, no, it's a real thing, because of course I've met a couple first years who were just like, yeah, well, I came from, you know, blah blah blah. Again, it's hard to transition from, you know, being like these students who were like, say you were involved in everything. I have a friend in high school who he was involved in everything. Like he was in student leadership, he was in all these clubs, and he was like the top rank, like, you know, senior in high school. And then when he started college, he wasn't involved in any of that. And like he struggled a lot with that. Like he struggled with not having those titles with him anymore. And somewhat, like for me in high school personally, I didn't have a lot of titles. I was just more heavily involved with like the choir side and singing, like an arts kid. I wasn't involved with like any student leadership or anything like that. But now I've gotten into more leadership roles, and you could definitely see like those who struggle, you know, from coming from no titles to like, you know, then you learn those and you kind of already know. Like I feel like that's why it's easy for me to not just be like who I am because of the titles. Like you could take those away. I know I am who I am without them, you know. um but again, with someone who came from all those titles to jumping to no more titles, now you got to work for it again. Now you got to like, you know, put in the work. It's no longer about like, well, they're this person, so let's just give it to them. Because sometimes that's why people get the roles sometimes, or their titles based on popularity. Let's be real. Like that's a lot of reason why people get their titles. And like you could see that like there's some students who don't come in thinking like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and I'm gonna like, you know, do this with the school. And like, but then it's again, it's your ego. You gotta calm that down, because you're not coming from that place with all those titles anymore. You're new. You know, you could say you did all this, but now you're here. And who do you want to be known as? Because yeah, that's what you were known in high school, but like you're here now. And like again, when you introduce yourself to me as like someone who like, well, I was the president of this, I was like, I ran all this student bodies, all this, I'm just gonna be like, okay, cool, but who well, who are you? Like, why did you do it? Like, you had the title, what did you do? Like, you know, like I just like, I think it's a big deal, because it's like it happens a lot, especially with the DU community. Like you could see, and it's unfortunate sometimes people get like power trips, and it happens, you know. There's a lot of those where you get power trips and they try to take over everything, or they try to think, you know, like I run this school and all that stuff. But you got to remember, at the end of the day, when those titles are gone, or even like, I mean, you could talk about like once you leave the school, like that title is now not yours anymore. Like it goes to someone else, like, you know. So I think it's just very important, again, like with those role models and inspirations, just figuring out like you need to figure out who you are without those titles too.
And I think that goes to like, are you, what are you doing that inspires yourself? You know, like, are you inspiring yourself? Are you an inspiration to yourself? And like, not trying to go down the road of like, are you inspiring others and like you need to check that box, but like, are you having like a positive impact in your community, in your family, or whatever? Like, you know, fill in that blank. And so that self-reflexivity of like, yo, like, you're gonna have that position for what, 30 weeks at DU if you're in leadership, not even, because you're transitioned in and out. So and then just in general, like I feel like, don't get me wrong, accomplishing something, being the first in your family to do something, like I'm not taking away any of that. That's not what I'm saying. But like, is your actions, is your behavior, is your impact like something that you're, one, proud of, obviously, but then two, like, does that inspire you to keep doing it, you know? And I feel like it's really important to ask yourself that question, because you might just be doing something for the hell of it. Like, you know, like, oh, I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to be, you know, active in the community. There might be a period of time where you're like, I need to do something for myself. Like what you were talking about earlier about like our professionals, like taking time for themselves and their families, is like, that in itself is inspiring, as you said. So are you doing that for yourself? And so, where was I going with this? I was going somewhere with this, but just thinking about how, like, you know, if you, like, are you on the same page with yourself? And I feel like people who are, they are inspiring, and they're also secure. And so when I think of inspiration, I feel like for me, I think of people who make me feel secure. Not that everything's going to go my way or everything's going to be all right, but like that I will be okay and safe and taken care of through, you know, XYZ. And so are you able to do that on your own if you're going through a rough patch, if you're, or you're not, maybe you're on some kind of high and everything's going right in your world. And so like, are you still able to kind of like level with yourself, not put yourself on your own pedestal, and make yourself unreachable? Because I think too, we all have a relationship with ourselves. Like, is Amina and Amina doing good right now? You know, is Bree and Bree doing good right now? And so, you know, asking that question is important too, because you should be inspiring yourself. Like, that's part of self-love. That's part of self-care. Like, you should be inspiring yourself. And if you're not, that's okay too. But like, could you be doing something? Is there a reason why you're not? And like, obviously there's no right answer, no right way to go about it. But like, that is an important point to consider. You know, like, you can't just be out here, like, you could check all those boxes and still have not made a difference in no one's life. or not made a difference in your own life, and you just wasted all your time, money, and effort serving other people, and you're like, this was what just happened? So yeah, like but I think you get what I'm saying.
I I it's like we're spilling tea here right now. We could spill more, but it's true. Like, you gotta really check yourself, because you could check those boxes. Like, I did this. There's so many people that we know that have checked those boxes, but then again, I'm like, what have they done? Like, really? Like, let's be honest. Like, But like, I had this problem this year, and like, Amina, you could even like, I went to you and I was like, what am I like? I was stuck in this like, cycle where I was like, I need to help out. I need to do this and this and this. But I was never like, what does Brianna need? Like, do you really want to do this because like you like it, or do you feel like you need to do it because that's, your reputation, that's who you are, And I get known as like that person who always wants to help and stuff, but don't forget, people will take advantage of that. People will take advantage of that. And I think that happened to me a lot this year. But like, now I'm starting to realize, like, if I don't want to do something, I don't have to do it, and I don't have to be involved to do it. But that doesn't make me a bad person. I think, like we said, like, again, like, sometimes like I especially this year, I got tired of like, where there was a point where I had to check myself, because I remember being in this very like meeting with like a group that I'm involved with, and just being sitting there and thinking like, can we just end this meeting already? I'm tired. Like, I just want to go home and sleep. I was there, but like mentally I wasn't. Like, it was like that checkout moment where I was like, you need to tell them that you can't be here and you gotta go. You gotta go. Because sometimes, again, like, you want to be there because you want to look good. You want to be like, yeah, I'm going to every meeting and I'm participating in it all. But sometimes, you have those days where it's like, it wasn't a good day in general, but like, I was still pushing myself to still go do these things. And that was so wrong. That was so wrong, because it's not going to help them. It's not even going to help me, because I was just sitting there like a little grumpy pants, just like, like not saying anything. But I mean, I was like thinking, I was like, you're still here. That's what counts. But then again, it's like, again, like, they would have, I think I would have been benefited, they would have been benefited had I just took the time for myself for that day, just to relax and just do some self-care, because I was terrible at self-care at the beginning of this year. I'm not gonna lie. I was just, spending my time, like, I was spending all my time just like worrying about other people's problems and like what I need to do here and what I should do here, and not sitting down and being like, Brianna, like, relax. So like like the last quarter, winter quarter, before everything happened, I was taking more self-care times where I was like, I got out of class early today. I'm gonna go downtown and go get me some spring fling cake. When it was still open, the market, I went downtown and I did it. I went by myself too. Like, I have like my group of friends where they're like, oh, sometimes they're like, where's Brianna? Where's Brianna? And I was like, yeah, I went to go get cake. I'll see you later, or I'll see you tomorrow. And they were fine with that. And I was even talking to people, or even Linda, I told her, like, I don't want to burn myself out. That's another thing. Be careful, because you can burn yourself out very easily. And yes, like, it's so easy to just burn out and just be like, and like, I was this close to burning out and just being like, I'm disappearing. I don't want anything anymore. Like, I hate everything, and like, I don't want, and that wasn't me. That's not my energy usually, but it was just because of everything. Like, I was soaking, like, that, being that sponge of soaking in everyone, but like, not being able to, like, take care of yourself. And I think that's a big deal, like, and that, again, it comes with those leadership roles. And I think when you come in as first years, especially, like, just realize it is okay to take care of yourself. And like, I think, again, going back to that point, like, that's fine. You accomplish this, like, that's great. Like, there's like, of course, like, that's amazing if you were able to, be this person, like, get that role and stuff like that. But again, realizing that it's not, everything. Like, you shouldn't, again, make that pedestal, be like, well, I'm the president of this, so I'm the best, like, and everything like that, or introducing yourself that way all the time, because you're more than your title. And I think it's, again, that's a big part of it. Like, that's
I
big.
feel like you can be selfless when it comes to your community, and you can be selfish when it comes to yourself, and you're still a good person. Like, I feel like from where I come from, how I grew up, like, that wasn't a thing. You're not taught that, and I had to learn that. And so that's my advice to first years. That's my advice to second, third, and fourth years.
Oh, yeah.
You can be selfless when it comes to your community. You can be selfless when it comes to serving others. Absolutely. And I would hope you are, but you can be selfish when it comes to yourself, and taking care of yourself, taking care of your family. And I feel like, again, you just have to align like your values and your missions and move in that direction. Because, you know, if you're in constant battle with like, you know, these parts of your lives and aspects of yourself, like it's not going to take you nowhere except the road of misery. So yeah, I would say like, again, there's duality, there's complexity. Like you can be an inspiration on the campus and you can still be flawed. And you can be someone who does great. But you can also be someone who fails. Like I feel like when it comes to when we think of people that we're inspired by, we immediately write the perfect story, right? And so this whole conversation you and I have been having is like reminding each other and reminding whoever's watching is that, you know, we all have bumps in the roads, we all face obstacles, we all face challenges, and we also like fall flat on our faces. I fell flat on my face right before graduation, hard, and it took me a gap year to figure it out, how to get back up, and that's okay. Like I'm not any worse for it, I'm actually way better for it. And so that's also going to make me a better educator because I'm going to be able to connect with people who are also facing challenges. You see what I'm saying? Like there's reasons for everything. So again, I wouldn't like, don't write your own story before it's happened. Don't say like, I'm going to be this and this and this in college, and I'm going to be this kind of inspiration to my family and do this and this. Like, you need to write your story as you go, and remember, you hold the pen. It's what you want to do, but don't read your story to yourself. Write it, you know?
I think I had that big problem coming into college where I was like, this is what I'm going to be after 4 years. Like, this is what I'm going to have done. This is what I'm going to accomplish. And then, like, just even, I think this year taught me that, you know, like, when you when you let go of that story that you made up in your head, it helps a lot with your healing process, I think. Like, I definitely was in so much pain because I went through some things, but it was because, you know, what hurt more was like I wrote this story and it was supposed to end up this way, and like it did not end up my way. You don't always get what you want, and it of course it hurts because you're like, that's what I wanted, but again, that cheesy quote, it's not what you need. It's not what you need sometimes. And like, oh my goodness, like this is just like putting myself on the spot, like again, like of being like it's true, like, you know, we all have our challenges. Like again, like we're not gonna be like, yeah, I didn't get that job, or yeah, I didn't, like, we're not gonna present that right away, but it is okay to realize that like you're not gonna get everything, like it's not gonna happen. Like I could say personally, like there are a lot of things that I have not gotten, and like again, you could be the kindest person, you could be the best, like you could be like so qualified for it, but then you don't get it and you're like, what did I do wrong? And I think again, like writing your story as the days go along. And I think that's what made me so happy this year, like especially towards the end of the quarter, like not now but last quarter. It was more like I was living life as it goes. Again, don't get me wrong, I had my plans. Like I was like, yeah, I still wanted to, like, we'll figure it out, but I didn't overthink it as much as like, all right, this is a story, I'm gonna get it, and once this happens, this is what's gonna happen. No, it was just more like, okay, maybe I'll do that, and if it happens, it happens, and we'll figure it out along the way. Because we have that tendency to come into college and be like, well, this is who I'm gonna be, this is what I'm gonna get done, and then you realize, you know, some of the things you don't get, and you're just like, what? Like don't get me wrong, like of course, like there's, and it's funny because like again, like some people like to assume like, oh my god, like, you know, you're super like smart, like you get all these good grades and stuff like that, but then like again, you put that label on yourself, and then when you're not getting those A's, you start to think like, oh wait, what's wrong with me? But realizing that is okay when you don't, you know, get everything, like, you know, like I, like when I came in my first year, I was like a straight A student. I was like, yeah, like I got it. And then after I can't say that now. Like, like after my first year, classes got harder, and it hurt me when I would be like getting lower than like an A, like, or A minus. You know, I was like, what's going on with me? Am I not smart anymore? And it's nothing to do with you. It's just, again, classes get harder, and sometimes it just happens. You know, like I think that's the big case again, like of realizing that, you know, you could write out, you could plan the story, but again, like it's not gonna happen your way sometimes. You gotta let that go. Like I had to let that go, definitely, for sure, this year, especially like being that person, being like, well, this is gonna happen to me in 4 years, and being able, even right now, like I was like, oh, like in the beginning of the year, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do for the summer. These are my plans, and
Pandemic.
you know, like that's not part of the plan. That, and like being like, all right, like what's going on? And like there's some internships I applied to, and some of them, I'm gonna be real and honest, I didn't get them, and me being like, okay, what's the plan now? Like what is it now? But I'm more relaxed now because I realized, like, it's not gonna always be that case, like, and again, it's no longer where I was like telling that story of like, well, this is gonna happen. It was more like, okay, if it's part of the plan, we'll add it to the story, and if it's not, bye, like, next chapter. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and, do you want to say one last thing so we could just wrap up the video here?
Yeah, actually, this is a lesson you taught me. I don't think you know that you taught me this, but just thinking about all of this and like, again, talking about like things don't go as planned, like, and those that inspire us aren't perfect, and this, and that. And so, like, you said this one time, and then I kind of transformed it in my head, but you inspired it, so I'm giving you credit. But the idea of like, if you're all happiness all the time, if you're all success all the time, if you're the sun all the time, you'll find yourself standing alone in a desert. We all need a little bit of rain. And so, just like, that's my piece of advice, is like, allow a little rain, okay, a lot of rain actually, into your life, so you're not a desert. You're not standing alone in a desert where nothing is living, right? If you want you to flourish, if you want to, be out here growing and thriving, you need to nurture yourself. And sometimes that comes with those hard things, that rain, those challenges. And so that's my piece of advice, is, to understand that like inspiration isn't this like picture perfect world, and that the people who inspires us are not picture perfect, and that we can inspire ourselves by not being perfect. And so, yeah, if you're all sunshine all the time, honey, you're gonna be alone in the desert.
You're gonna be dry, is what I oh my goodness, no. And like, I think one last thing, I think you definitely taught me, and trust me, you taught me a lot. And I think one thing is the quick story time. Me and my best friend, I will say her name, Nicole. I remember we used to be so intimidated by you just because you had, again, all these titles. What's up? Like, we were like, oh my God, like, and then you came and sat down next to us, and you were just a great person, like, low key, like, we were kind of scared because we're like, okay, don't act dumb, like, be nice. Like, when we had that class together, I was like, don't act dumb. I'd be like, don't say dumb stuff. Don't look dumb in front of her. Like, stop. And you'll come in and you be saying dumb stuff too. I was like, wait, she's like us. Oh my God. Like, and that's something you gotta,
the psychology of diversity class.
yes. But we would see her around campus, and I remember telling her, like, wow, like, I want to be like her. Like, she's just like a strong woman. Like, you could tell. And like, I'm not kidding. You could ask Nicole, like, we would be so, I was more intimidating of everything, but like, she'll be like, we were like, oh my God, like, don't, like, stop. Like, and I remember I'd be so like nervous because I'd be like, don't say anything. And it's so funny because, like, it's true. Like you said, this person can have titles. Again, when you're holding that person to that pedestal, they're not going to form that relationship. And it's true because when you hold someone to such a high standard, you're scared of them. Like, I'd be like so nervous. I'd be like, oh, do I say hi? Like, what? Like, and it was just like that, like, coming in. Like, I didn't know anyone. And like, I was just like, oh my God, like, I could just tell, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, when you see Amina, like, you're just like, she's a, like, she's a bad, like, that. But like, it's true. Like, I was just like, when you came in, you were saying the funniest stuff. I was like, wait, she's just a fool like us. Like, what? Like, and like, just realizing, like, you were more than those titles, which is great because, again, you could come across that person who has all these titles. I had that, those incidents where this person has all these titles. You come up all happy, and then they're like, hi, and then again, thinking like they're better than you, and like, so I was just like, you gotta remember, like, don't hold everyone to a high pedestal. Always just treat them like how you would, see someone else like you, And I just want to share that story because it's so funny how, like, we just.
That's your word.
So I just want everyone to know that, like, like you brought up, don't hold, like, even, yes, you can have those role models, but don't hold them to such a high pedestal either. Like, we're all human. We all went through some shit, like, let's keep it real. Like, when you see me or when you see Amina, like, during pre-orientation or anything like that, just in general in person, you might think like, wow, there's like the happiest person. They're like, whoa, they have all this going on. But we've had our fair share of challenges. We've had our fair share of where we wanted to give up or where we doubted ourselves. We're human just like you. So just remember that, because it's crazy, because my freshman year would have never thought I would be where I am right now. And that's a good thing. I never thought, like, don't get me wrong though, it wasn't pretty getting here. There was a lot of like challenges along the way. There was a lot of rain. There was a lot of rain, and that is okay because it makes it beautiful to who we are now. So yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and wave off. I know this video was probably long, but like, you're getting some tea. I mean, we didn't go into specifics, but like, let us know if you have any questions. Again, like, this is 100% our opinion, and if you ever want to join in and talk, let us know. But I think we're gonna go ahead and wave off. Bye now. Bye everyone.